Hello, today's topic is going to be how to feel a language. Well, we'll get into what that means in a minute. But when we're language learning, one thing that I certainly suffer from, and I'm sure many do, is that we're always looking for very precise answers to things. When we have a question and we're not sure about something, we'll go and look in the grammar book or in a dictionary and we'll pin down the correct answer to something. We'll ask our teacher, what's this exactly? And I have quite a mathematical background. I'm used to looking for precision. Something solved when you know the precise answer to it. And that works really well when you're quite early in language learning. However, as we will see, it only works up to a certain point, because if you look, everything up to a point is in black and white. White background, black text on it. Black and white means you either know the answer or you don't. You can use a word or you can't. But in fact, surrounding this world of black and white is a world of bright colours all around the edge of it. And when you think you've pinned things down, you're still quite early in the journey. So when you're attempting to learn a language quickly, you can live in this black and white world. When you want a deeper knowledge, you have to behave quite differently. It turns out that in this multicoloured world, there are actually, this might sound strange, it's a bit of a joke really, 50 shades of grey. What I mean by that is, here's a few examples. Even when you've pinned a word down, you still don't know what it means. So, in Czech, there's a word divné, which means weird. And there's a word podivné, which means strange. So I would be quite happy I knew these words. Not everybody would know them, and I was very proudly using them. And then people started saying to me, oh, that's the wrong word to use. That's a bit strong. You wouldn't use that one here. No. I thought, oh, what do they mean? Well, it turns out that even though they do mean weird and strange, when you use them, they're used differently in some cases than how I would use them in English, or how a typical English person would use them. So I wanted to know what the rules were. So the next time somebody said, oh, don't say that word there, don't say divné when you should have said podivné, I thought, I'll pin it down. Why not? And then I got the dreadful answer that hits you more and more and more as you get deeper into language learning. You just have to feel it. Now to me, that was horrible. I hated hearing, you just have to feel it. I can't explain why that is, Anthony. I don't know what the rules are. There probably aren't any rules. You just have to feel it. And I've heard this in several languages now, as my level's improving in several languages. I hear people saying more and more, native speakers just feel when it's right to use something. Now, we're not talking about formality of language here. Register is the official term for this, where certain words are formal and certain words are informal in different contexts. There's nothing formal and informal about divné and podivné. They're just used in different situations, and the right situation to use them is something you just feel. Here's another example. That for years now I've known that the word podnos means tray, but the word tarts in Czech, again, means tray, for carrying food. And I thought, oh, they've just got two different words for the same thing. I asked early on if one was formal and one was less formal. No, they both mean tray. So I also heard that tarts has a slang meaning of 1,000 crowns. So I would try to play with language using jokes like this. People say podnos and tarts mean the same. You can use them both in the same context. So I tried to make a joke like, I bought tarts for tarts. I bought a tray for 1,000 crowns, thinking I was clever using tarts with its double meaning, and people would be impressed. That's a podnos, not a tarts. Well, what do you mean? What's the difference? Well, you just have to feel it. Yeah, one's bigger than the other sometimes, but then no, maybe it's the way you hold it. You can put things to display on one, but sometimes you can use them, but you just have to feel it. You just have to feel it. This stuff would drive me crazy. And I was always certain that that's because the person wasn't very good at explaining the differences. So I'd look in my big fat dictionaries and I'd ask expert teachers, and they'd go, and the answer is that these things don't have precise different meanings. They really do have such subtle differences in different situations that you have to feel them. So how do you get to feel the differences? Well, words don't just have meanings. You can learn the meanings of words until you know them better than a native speaker. But words have situations, contexts in which they are just used. Suitable situations where one word is right and another word is wrong, even though the words are identical. So you can learn all the easy differences between words pretty easily. You can have these, I'll learn this language in a few months and know a lot of word vocabulary and grammar and be able to get by in a conversation. But there's no shortcut to mastery, I've discovered. Unfortunately, the way to feel a language is to do this. Goodbye textbooks, goodbye classes, and goodbye deadlines. It's going to take as long as it takes, and the way to get there is the way native speakers got there. Go native. This is why advanced language learners aren't reading advanced textbooks all day long. Instead, they read novels, they watch TV, they talk all the time to native speakers, they read the gossip newspapers forever. And what you're learning when you're immersing yourself in native materials isn't necessarily new words or new grammar. It's context where these things are appropriate. You're learning when native speakers use these things in real life. You're learning situations where it's appropriate to use some words or some phrases and where it's appropriate to use others. You're learning context that native people have learned in order for them to feel when something is appropriate. And this is the only way that you can learn to feel the language yourself. That is a long journey, but it has another side effect, a benefit, a major benefit, which is that not only will you have learned these words and their contexts, you'll now actually know a lot about the culture of the local people. So one problem I used to suffer from was I'd go to parties with locals and they'd all be talking about childhood cartoons they'd never heard of. Or they'd be talking about some gossip that had been in one of the newspapers recently about some celebrity. And I would be lost. Now that I've immersed myself and continue to immerse myself in native materials, I'm learning all of this feeling of the language so that I can use things in more subtle ways. And sometimes natives will laugh. He knows when to use that word in a funny way. I wouldn't expect a foreigner to know that. Oh, that's cute. But the better you get at it, the less people actually comment on it because it just seems natural. You're using the language in a way that is natural to them. You have gone native. And it's not about having an accent where they think, oh, he is a native speaker. No, it's about understanding all the different contexts and the culture that go behind feeling a language. So that's the news for how to feel a language. There isn't a shortcut. You have to immerse yourself in the language as it's really used in all the cultural materials of the native speakers that they learned these feelings from. Thank you. Take care.